Congress just passed a major housing bill. What this could mean for Northern Nevada? Hello everyone, Anna Hooker here, your local real estate professional in Reno, Sparks, Washoe Valley, and Carson City, Nevada. Today, I want to talk about something important happening at the national level that could impact housing across the United States and potentially right here in Northern Nevada. Recently, on March 12, 2026, the United States Senate passed a major housing bill called the 21st Century Road to Housing Act. What is interesting about this bill is that it received very strong bipartisan support, meaning both Democrats and Republicans agreed that housing affordability and housing supply need serious attention in our country. The Senate passed this bill with a vote of 89 to 10, which is a very large margin in Congress. Before it even reached the Senate floor, the bill had already passed through the Senate Banking Committee unanimously with a vote of 24 to 0. That level of agreement shows that lawmakers across the political spectrum recognize that the United States is facing a serious housing shortage. Now, before we go further, I want to be clear about something. I have been doing some research to better understand this legislation, but by no means is this a full legal analysis. The bill itself is about 300 pages long and it includes many different housing programs and policy proposals. What I want to do today is simply share a summary to help us better understand what is being discussed at the national level and how it could eventually impact housing markets like ours here in Northern Nevada. And actually, this conversation couldn't come at a better time. In a couple of weeks, I will be traveling to Washington, D.C. to attend the Home Ownership and Housing Policy Conference with NAHREP. This is a major conference where real estate professionals, industry leaders, and policymakers come together to talk about the future of home ownership in the United States. It is also an opportunity to engage directly with lawmakers in Capitol Hill and advocate for policies that support responsible home ownership and economic growth in our communities. I will actually be making a separate video about the conference and sharing what I learned while I am there, but I thought it was important to mention it here because all of these conversations about housing policy are connected. And now let's go back to the bill. Why this bill exists? And one of the main reasons lawmakers are focusing on housing right now is because the United States is experiencing a major housing shortage. Housing experts estimate that our country is short somewhere between 3 to 5 million homes. When there are not enough homes available for the number of people who want to live in a community, prices increase. That is basic supply and demand. And we have seen this happen across many parts of the country. Home prices have increased in many markets. Rents have gone to the roof. And buyers often face strong competition when trying to purchase a home. Here in Northern Nevada, we have experienced similar challenges. Over the past several years, Reno and the surrounding areas have seen strong population growth. New companies have moved into the region, more people are relocating here, and demand for housing has increased. When demand grows faster than the number of homes being built, affordability becomes a concern. That is one of the reasons policymakers are discussing legislation like the 21st Century Road to Housing Act. The overall goal of the bill is to increase housing supply and improve housing affordability across the country. Main goals of the bill. There are several major goals behind this legislation. First, The bill aims to increase housing supply by encouraging the construction of more homes. Second, it aims to improve housing affordability, especially for working families and first-time home buyers. Third, the bill attempts to reduce regulatory barriers that can slow down housing development. Fourth, it expands financing tools that developers and communities can use to build housing projects. And finally, the bill encourages local communities to support housing development so more homes can be built in areas where demand is growing. Key provisions inside the bill. Because the bill is around 300 pages long, it includes many different proposals. One part of the bill focuses on reducing federal red tape that can delay housing development. The goal is to streamline certain approval processes so housing projects can move forward more efficiently. Another part of the legislation focuses on expanding financing tools and affordable housing and workforce housing development. These programs could help communities build housing that is more accessible to working families. Another topic that has received attention involves institutional investors. Institutional investors are large companies that purchase large number of single-family homes as investments. Some lawmakers believe that when large companies purchase many homes in a community, it can create more competition for everyday buyers. Because of that, the bill includes discussions about limiting the ability of very large institutional investors that own hundreds of homes from continuing to purchase additional single-family homes. The legislation also includes provisions aimed at supporting first-time home buyers, including improving access to certain mortgage programs. Another component of the bill encourages local government to increase housing supply by supporting communities that allow more housing development. What this could mean nationally? If policies like this are implemented over time, the goal is to increase housing construction across the United States. Increasing housing supply is one of the main strategies economists believe can help stabilize housing prices over time. However, there's always a however. It is important to understand that legislation like this does not change the housing market overnight. Housing development takes time. Projects require planning, approvals, financing, and construction. So the impact of legislation like this is usually long-term rather than immediate. What this could mean for Northern Nevada. Now, let's talk about our local market. Northern Nevada has experienced strong growth over the past decade. More companies have relocated here. The economy has expanded and more people have chosen to move to Reno and surrounding communities. I mean, why not? It's beautiful. With that growth has come increased demand for housing. In many cases, housing supply has struggled to keep up with that demand. So that is why conversations about housing availability and housing affordability are very important for our region. If policies like the 21st Century Road to Housing Act eventually help increase housing development across the country, growing regions like Northern Nevada could potentially see more housing projects in the future. But again, these changes will take time. Local development decisions, zoning policies, and market conditions will also influence how housing supply evolves in our region. As someone working in real estate here in Northern Nevada, I believe it is important for our community to stay informed about housing policy discussions happening at the national level. Housing policy decisions made in Washington can eventually influence housing markets across the country. Understanding these conversations can help buyers, sellers, and homeowners make more informed decisions. My goal is always to provide information that helps our community better understand what is happening in the housing market. Final thoughts. For now, the 21st Century Road to Housing Act has passed the Senate, but it still needs to go through additional steps before it could become law. There may be revisions or negotiations before a final version is approved. This is something that many people in the housing industry, like me, will continue to watch closely. Housing affordability and housing supply are important issues for families and communities across the country. And I will continue sharing updates and insights as we learn more about how national housing policies may affect our housing market here in Northern Nevada. If you ever have questions about the housing market in Reno, Sparks, Washoe Valley, or Carson City, Nevada, or if you are thinking about buying or selling a home, I am always here to help. Thank you for watching and see you again soon.